RPGs have a lot of variety in their combat systems, but they usually come down to two main systems, which is action combat in real time and then turn-based. And there's usually a lot of discussion which one is better, which one is more fun, and a lot of people think turn-based is almost kind of dying in a way. I don't think it is, but you will definitely hear that occasionally because action is prioritized a lot in this day and age. Now, there's variations to these, like ATB from Final Fantasy is like turn-based, but it's moving a bit faster and a little bit in real time. And then there's a whole bunch of unique combat systems that you'll see with an example is Ert Tenelico. You almost use the rhythm of music to do your attacks. So, there's variations, but it mainly comes down to either action combat or turn-based. And there's always discussions about which one is better, and I'm going to give my opinion, and then I want you guys to discuss down below. Let me know which one you enjoy more. Do you genuinely think one is better than the other? Give me all your opinions. Now, for me, neither are better than the other. What really matters, in my opinion, is just the combat system itself in the specific game. Is it designed well? Is it fun? Does it provide a challenge? Are you able to strategize? I don't think it necessarily matters if it's turn-based or action. Now, there's definitely preferences. Like for me, for example, I like action a little bit more. I love to use reflexes, and usually when you're fighting boss battles, it provides a bit more intensity for me. Usually when the boss is on your ass and you're having to learn the moves and find your openings and stuff like that, it gets really fast-paced and intense. So overall, it's always going to be a bit more fun for me, but I love turn-based as well. It provides a different strategy to it. It provides some relaxation occasionally for me, where action necessarily is more intense, so I'm not necessarily relaxing the whole time. Well, for video game genres in particular, I think the RPG genre is the most unique in terms of its gameplay. There's so much variety, like with first-person shooters or third-person shooters, it's like, how much variation can you have, right? You throw in hero shooters with abilities, yeah, there's that, but most of the time you're learning how to shoot a gun and aim and kind of have reflexes. And the same goes with fighting games. Like, I love fighting games, but it's kind of the same thing each time, and I'm not saying that as in like all fighting games play the same. There's a lot of variation in those combat systems that you have to learn, a lot of combos and a huge skill ceiling, but at the end of the day, you're fighting someone side by side, even though there is sometimes variation like Smash Bros and Arena Fighters. There's a whole bunch of different things, but with RPGs, the combat systems can be completely different, but the game overall has the same vibe. And this is why, in my opinion, I don't think one is better than the other, and I definitely want turn-based to stick around just as much as action, and that's why I'm happy to see things like Metaphor ReFantagio and the new Expedition 33 coming out very soon, because modern technology with turn-based is actually pretty damn cool. For action games, like, we love super moves, right? A lot of RPGs try to be really stylish, especially Jrpgs. You want to see some cool anime shit, right? But when you do a bunch of super moves in action games, sometimes they just don't get it right. Like, no one wants to be dragged into a little cutscene in the middle of you fighting, right? It almost takes the control away from the player. But with turn-based, it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? They usually try to make those super moves or more powerful moves as cool and stylish as possible, and since we have modern technology, the cutscenes and camera directions and everything for these moves are just so cool to watch. When I was playing through Dragon Quest XI or Metaphor ReFantagio or even the new Persona 3 Reload with the Jrpg attacks, like the super moves, the cutscenes for them are so cool to watch, and you can't really do that in action RPGs. I mean, you can, but again, I can't stand it when games do that, because it's like you're in the middle of real time moving your player around and then a cutscene initiates and it's like, okay, well, can I have the controls back? But with turn-based, you're supposed to sit there and strategize, and if you want to use your big super move and it's time to do it, you're going to get to see a really cool payoff. And action games as well have huge variety in itself. There's a whole subgenre now of Souls games where FromSoft basically started a movement with certain style of gameplay mechanics, and this is a whole different debate that I can make another video for, but it kind of drives me crazy where people are like, there's so many Souls-likes and it's getting annoying and overused, and it's like, I understand that, especially when a lot of Souls-like games are kind of mid compared to FromSoft, but A Souls-like combat system to me it's just mechanics, right? Like you're gonna have a stamina bar, you're gonna have to learn boss move sets. You're not gonna be able to just go smack the enemy around 12 times in a row. You have to be careful. The enemies are intimidating, and things like that are kind of just mechanics. So I honestly get driven crazy by the name in itself, like Souls-like genre, because there's just some games that you have to be careful with your moves and really time out and position your character. That doesn't mean it's a Souls-like. Now, if it copies it completely with the healing, the bonfires, and all that stuff, yes, it's obviously, you could call it a Souls-like, but in general, I think there's just a lot of variety in both of these combat systems, and it's really cool, especially when you have games like Fire Emblem and strategy RPGs as well, where that to me is just another variation of turn-based. So this genre has so many ways to do a combat system that I really don't think it matters which one they do. The combat system in the game itself just needs to be designed well with a lot of things in mind, like fun, replayability, a high skill ceiling, which I think is very important. Skill variety is also really good, but for me, it's like if there's no skill ceiling, it's kind of pointless. There's just a bunch of things you throw into a blender and that's it. But with a high skill ceiling and an emphasis on like the specific mechanics of the game, you can get really good at them. And that's why you see these really cool speed runs or boss runs or level 1 super bosses. And that stuff to me is so cool. And then you go over to turn-based and it's like super bosses for those games, like you have to strategize. It's almost like a giant puzzle, but instead of having to like move boring boxes or play with lights or lanterns, like weird stuff like that, because I honestly get bored of puzzles unless they're really cool. You get to use a bunch of cool abilities, attack your enemies, grow, build, and level up your characters and team. And then when you're in battle, you're still basically doing like a puzzle, but it's just a lot more fun to watch. So in terms of the question that I see constantly, what is better, action combat or turn-based? Neither. They're both really cool, and what really matters is the combat system itself. Is it fun? Is it designed well? And I think both have their place and really should stay. There's a huge amount of people that love turn-based, there's a huge amount that love action, and I think there's audiences for both. And games like Persona, Metaphor, and again, the newly Expedition 33 show, there's a huge pool of people that still really want turn-based games. I mean, you saw how many people raged when Final Fantasy 16 went action completely, and while I don't care about that, it just shows that there's a lot of people that still really love turn-based. So I think both need to stay. I think both really benefit from modern technology in video games. And yeah, I love the variety. That's kind of one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the combat systems in specifically in these games, because it's almost like, yeah, even if it's action or turn-based and I've done it before, there's usually new gimmicks, new variations, and unique variety in terms of every single RPG combat system I play, and that is genuinely one of the biggest reasons I love the genre. So again, let me know down below, do you genuinely think one is better than the other, or do you kind of share my opinion where they both have their place and it really matters about the combat system in itself in said game? So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I see this discussion a lot, and I kind of just wanted to bring a video out where everyone could discuss it in the comments. And again, I don't think turn-based in specific is dying anytime soon, and I don't think every action game is suddenly a Souls-like now. I think there's just a lot of variety to this genre and complete with all these combat systems. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed and have a fantastic day. For me, I'll see you in the next video very soon. Peace out.